I'm here with Chris Johnson from HSBC Securities Services. Chris is responsible for product management for market data services. Chris, could you expand a little on your role, please?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, so my role is representing our clients who are buy-side firms such as fund managers, pension funds, insurers, and what I'm doing is representing their interests and needs for market data in the industry.
Last year you told us that regulations were one of the key challenges for people in market data. Is that still the case?
It is, and the difference is that now it's actually happening, and as soon as February next year, which will be before TSAM, reporting will commence for EMEA. And one of the surprises there for some firms may be that reporting includes futures and options as well as OTC derivatives. They'll need legal entity identifiers. There's a unique product identifier which is quite difficult to get, and this is within a matter of weeks. So I think the regulatory is very imminent, and it's actually practically landing in a matter of weeks and months. So still very high on the agenda. There are additional challenges for costs. Costs are still increasing, and there's also an emphasis on risk reporting data quality. I think those are the things I would highlight as most important at the moment.
How are you working to stay on top of regulations, and what advice would you give to anyone who's currently in the midst of a data regulatory project?
Yeah, you have to keep on the ball, and my recommendation for project managers is to think about the data first and plan it first and test it as early as you can. Don't make any assumptions until you've actually seen it with the whites of your eyes. It doesn't count, and don't leave it till the last minute. You will have a delay, you'll have a disappointment. I think keeping on the ball means analysis. It means paying attention to what the supervisory authorities such as ESMA and AOPA are saying, the hard graft of reading what their requirements are, joining trade associations, following the press. There's no easy way of doing this. Each firm has to be on the ball.
Oh, that's interesting. What are the other biggest challenges you see data managers facing right now?
Yeah, I think data management is a challenging area, largely because changing data management is a bit like changing the tyres on a car while it's driving along. And the kind of skills you need to be able to do that and make those changes are in depth. You need to understand the data, you need to understand the business, you need to have very strong communication skills. Firms really have to be careful with what their strategy is. My advice is don't take your lead from the data vendors. You need to take the lead from your own business and what your needs are. And also learn the lessons of where things haven't gone well in the past. Don't just repeat the mistakes that other firms have made. And tackling issues such as I mentioned earlier, the increase in costs, the licensing challenges for outsourcing are significant. And a big amount of my time is spent on trying to understand those challenges and those obstacles and working how we can make this work efficiently.
So we're seeing a rise of more chief data officers within investment management and seemingly more interest in data in general. Do you think that reflects a rise in the recognition of the importance of data going forward?
Yeah, and I think that is a direct result of business challenges. It's not for the love of data, it's because businesses are constrained, they reach a tipping point where the data hasn't got the flexibility or isn't fit for purpose for the multiple uses. So consequently it's necessary to hire people at a senior level who are involved and at a senior level in setting the direction and the governance. And it is actually quite, it is actually quite hard work and quite not the most exciting. Things like getting the right sponsorship, putting in stewards in the business, creating dictionaries, putting the MI and having the governance meetings. That is what it's about. It's the hard graft stage, and it needs senior sponsorship to make that happen.
So following on from that, what do you see are the biggest opportunities for data managers right now, and where would you recommend people invest the most time and effort?
Yeah, and it's investing the time and effort that's the tough one, but it's also having the skills to do so. It takes a special type of person to be able to have the drive and determination to tackle these types of issues properly. I think in terms of opportunities, managing expectations, quick wins are not usually realistic in this area. It's always possible to do it, but there are for example, myriads of licensing constraints. The only way you can really tackle that is by looking at the contracts, what's written, having good legal help with it as to what that means for what your business can do, and negotiating those so that it can become efficient. I think that's really what it comes down to. It's the detail. There is a high level of expertise that's needed, and those skills I think will become increasingly in demand as it's recognised that these are deep-seated and do need to be tackled properly. But against all that, in terms of opportunities, data managers, we have to deliver on our day jobs. That's what pays the salaries, and that's what keeps us in our jobs. All the other stuff we have to do as well, but data management isn't generally a revenue line in financial firms. So consequently, we have to deliver the value add in the business, and then try to make things better, normally in our own time.
And over the next 5 years, what do you think the data landscape will look like?
Yeah, I think it's back to basics, and it's treating data as a very important asset and managing it properly. I think the licensing I've mentioned several times, but I think the vendors and suppliers that make that unworkable will become marginalised as we find ways using IT solutions to get around that, with compliance solutions that are workable for us. I think auditors are going to be taking a lot more interest as a consequence of the regulations. There's a lot of need for affirmation. The regulations say that data must be completely accurate and appropriate, and they mean that. And the way to prove that is ultimately through audits. So I think that will drive some of these changes I've been describing. But against all that, over the next 5 years, leopards don't change their spots. The history repeats itself. There will still be significant investments in new systems, which should be a good thing, but doing it in an intelligent way that is usable by the consumers and doesn't end up as a white elephant that can't suit all the business needs. It's very easy to underestimate.
And finally, Chris, you are chairing the data management stream at TSAM Europe in March. What are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I think what I like about the TSAM is that it is a buy-side gathering, and there's usually, always actually, a good representation of fund managers and security services firms, and we're able to compare notes, and that sort of networking and benchmarking of each other's situations is really helpful. I do also like to dip into the other sessions if I can. It's easier if you're not chairing to do that. But going into sessions such as the derivatives and outsourcing, there's a wide variety of different types of people at the event, which makes it more diverse.
Well, in that case, we look forward to hearing more from you at TSAM, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. It's been a pleasure.